This is a very special book that is part of the Wade Center's wonderful collection. It was owned by C.S. Lewis. It is his Book of Common Prayer, and people who are within a liturgical church, like the Anglican Church, would know the Book of Common Prayer, and many other people use and enjoy it, but not everyone would. So just to give you a little, first of all, this book itself is, you can see, very worn. It has been used many times. It is from the Church of Ireland, which is part of the Anglican Church, and it was published in 1901. So it's very likely that Lewis had this as a child. Don't know for sure. Could have been a family book or something he picked up later as a young adult when he did become a believer. But I think it's more likely, but this is speculation. We do know, though, he had it and used it regularly. It came to the Wade Center from the Millers, who gave it to Dr. Kilby. And so it was here when I first came to the Wade Center. And the Book of Common Prayer, for people who maybe haven't used it, is part of an Anglican's private devotional life, and it's also part of their corporate worship. So Lewis, we don't know exactly when all different spiritual formation disciplines or practices began in his life, but we do have a very good sense that around 1940, he wrote to his brother Warren, and said, "I've begun to read the Psalms." And it's very likely he read the Psalms from this book. And he said, "I read them in the morning and I read them in the evening, and they're a good devotional practice." So he would have taken the Psalms for the day from the lectionary, from what scripture readings are assigned through. There's a lot of different churches will have read through the Bible practices or whatever, but the Anglican Church has one that sometimes there's a one-year service, sometimes there's special things, so it does differ a little depending on the church. But Lewis would have used that, and we also know that it was later in that same year, so that was in July, he wrote to Warren, in October, that he first began to go to a man by the name of Father Walter Adams, who was his spiritual director. He went there for a number of reasons, but one of the things he learned from Father Adams was Father Adams' own advice on how to deepen his spiritual life. And so one of the things he encouraged him was to be regular in terms of the daily office. Now that's morning and evening prayer. You can do it on your own by using the prayer book, and it would be scripture as well as other written prayers. Or you could go, in Lewis's case, during term time, he went to Wheaton College Chapel, was part of morning prayer. So those were both ways. And we also can know that Lewis used this regularly throughout the year. In the back, there's little pencil markings that he indicates, for example, at Christmas, these are certain psalms that he would read. Or on Good Friday, here are certain psalms that he would read. And so it's kind of a cheat sheet. You can find them otherwise, but this was a reminder to him, this is the psalm that is pertinent to this particular high day. Lewis began, obviously, as he began in 1940 and read the Psalms, he probably read through all 150 Psalms every month. It would have been a regular practice. And Lewis had an almost photographic memory, so likely he began to memorize these, just like even children in church who hear something repeated a lot, they begin to learn it. So the first response to that, I think, was what he did when he wrote Reflections on the Psalms. And that was published in 1958. It was after this that he was invited to become part of something. It was a commission by the Archbishop for the revision of the Psalter. In other words, the Psalms that are contained in here, they were done by Coverdale, and there were some translation errors, and there were also just sometimes, you know, it's a subjective thing. Translation, there are various words that could fit. So T.S. Eliot was on that same commission, as were some other churchmen. And Lewis did not join committees regularly. This was, so it tells you again his commitment to Anglican church and worship and to the Book of Common Prayer. And so this was something he was a part of, and it was published, and you know, it's something that you can look at here at the Wade Center as well, though it's a bit, I think you probably can still get this in print if you would like to. So it's interesting, the back and forth, and it was also an interesting part of, Lewis had initially not been very close to T.S. Eliot, and then he took issue with his poetry, and Charles Williams connected them. That didn't go terribly well, but over time, as they had other connections, they became friends. If you're interested, too, in understanding more about the process that and Lewis's involvement in the Revised Psalter, you can look at volume 36 and volume 22 of 7. There's 2 articles in here, one by George Musacchio and one by Joel Heck, that will give you a lot more of the background, and it's really very interesting.